We'll do that again. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here now at round 8 of the MotorMotion GT3 Championship, here hosted by Player1 Sim Gear. We're at Suzuka International Circuit. There's going to be a 60-minute endurance race. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. The mandatory tyre here today is the mediums with a track distance of 5.8 kilometers and 17 turns to navigate. There are of course 7 teams, 4 drivers per team and 1 privateer per group. We've got, of course, Group A and B, which we will cover very shortly. And our sponsor, Player1 Sim Gear, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. As we have a look at the drivers that will be on track tonight, we've got Von Duve and Taylor there for WTC. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic night for them. It's going to be amazing. Of course, their sponsors are Goodyear and Mobil 1. We've got Andrew Scott and Scott Taylor for Gridline Racing. Their sponsors will be Valvoline and Bosch. Foster and Mead Racing for Diffusion Race Engineering. Their sponsors are Spotify and Fuchs. Piers and Adar there for Strike Race Tech. Their sponsors are Strike and Ricardo. We've got Lee, the team boss, and Barlow there for Black Rose Racing. Their sponsors are Inky and Chill Out. Our team championship leaders, Scarborough Motorsport, their racers are Hutton and Mackenzie. After playing a little bit of musical chairs throughout their driver lineup, it's been interesting to see that they've managed to stay out on top. Their sponsors are JB Hi-Fi and Nulon. Then, of course, we do have NED Racing. Their drivers are Atkinson and Ison. Their sponsors are, of course, Ned Whiskey and Penrite. Then we do have the privateer, Morgan Davey, the man out in front, doing a fantastic job. In the combox, we have Nick Pautasso and, of course, Joel Austin. That's me. All right, so what happened last week? We had DP Mario absolutely dominate the field as a pro driver, finishing above all of the elites, winning the entire event. He has now upgraded his own class to be an elite driver as a substitute, so we will no longer see him in that purple category. But a fantastic drive there for Scarborough Motorsport nonetheless. Hutton managed to take the win in the elite category for Scarborough Motorsport. Atkinson taking second and Davey taking third. Of course, over in that pro category, we do have Taylor taking second, and me taking third. As we move over to Group B, we saw Van der Zandt take the win with an amazing drive for WTC Racing. Cooke taking second place and Brun finishing in third. The amateur driver rushed in, finishing ahead of Brun, managing a really good points position for himself for Gridline Racing, finishing above his teammate, grabbing those extra points. Also a first place in that amateur division. Scarborough also finishing well up the field, fifth overall and second in class. And then we had C. White for WTC Racing taking up third place. The standings overall, how they sit right now, Scarborough Motorsport is out in front with 403 points. That Porsche 911 is on a mission and it is not stopping for anyone. But if anyone's ready to knock on the door, it might be Gridline Racing. Of course, these guys have been really pushing that BMW to its limits. They're on 372 points. Diffusion Race Engineering, the next BMW team, not far behind, 340.5 points. Black Roads Racing in fourth, 309 points in their Mercedes. NED Racing in the slower Aston Martin V12, hanging on to fifth, just barely on 266.5, and WTCR in sixth place at 252.5 in their Jaguar car. Then we do have Strike Race Tech that missed out on some crucial points early in the series with a couple of drivers missing and unable to find replacements, only sitting on 115 points this far in the series. The standings driver-wise for Group A in the GT3, we've got Davey out in front on 99 points, Atkinson in second on 83, and Scott right on his tail. There's a big tail on the back of that V12 Vantage, and I'll tell you what, Scott is tucked in right behind that giant wing on just 82 points, 1 point behind Atkinson. Of course, moving down to the Gold Championship, we do have Barlow in first place by quite a margin, 120 points ahead of his fellow competitor, Glenn Mead for Diffusion Race Engineering on 94. Then we do have Scott Taylor for Gridline Racing on 83. In Group B, Van der Zandt well out in front, 118. Jeff Brun surprising everyone with 79 points for Gridline Racing, and Joynson taking out third place for Scarborough Motorsport on 75. We do have the amateur series rushed in well ahead of the rest of the field, 128 points. Dylan Scarborough doing his best to make sure that he doesn't run away with it on 117, and Britnell on 82 points. Of course, tonight we are doing Round 8 Suzuka International Racing Course. There'll be a 60-minute endurance race. My apologies, 60-minute endurance race with the medium tyres as the mandatory tyre. Of course, this will be commentated by myself and Nick Pautasso in Group A. And of course, over in Group B, which is also being broadcasted right now on YouTube and Twitch, is a fabulous George Cooke. The weather settings here today at Suzuka, it's a beautiful 30 degrees, real feel 34, in the shade 30, nice wind of up to 17 degrees, massive gusts of 39 on possible chance, very low chance of precipitation, should be a fantastic race, and do not forget the mandatory tyre is those medium race tyres. Now, we are absolutely delighted to announce that Player1 Sim Gear, our sponsor for the series, have happily chipped in to provide a prize for each division driver champion. A voucher to the value of a set of racing gloves. As you can see here on screen, the mechanics, absolutely beautiful racing gloves there, up for grabs for each team champion. It's going to be a fantastic race, so make sure you check out their website, which is www.p1simgear.com.au, the proud sponsors of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. Have you liked what you've seen so far? Make sure you check us out on Facebook. Hey, guess what? We've also got a website, www.motormotioneseries.worldpress.com. You can see all of the latest actions, upcoming events, and everything that you would expect to see from a professional sim series. Make sure you guys check us out on both Facebook and online. We won't disappoint. Of course, I do have here with me my fellow commentator, Nick Pautasso. Nick, how are you doing tonight?
Dave is still leading the way, only as the privateer compared to any of the team drivers in that championship, where we have Lewis Atkinson from NED Racing only a point ahead from Andrew Scott in Ando 787, and that is really close. So it's anyone's games in the Platinum Championship. Unfortunately, maybe in the Gold, Barlow looks like he might have a very tiny hand, maybe a little pinky finger on that Gold Trophy Championship. When it comes to round 10, so he's sitting pretty up at the top in first place, but it's all out to play for here at Suzuka, where the circuit is it's a notorious track for being everyone's favorite circuit. It's a driver's circuit for all the drivers in the sim world and in the real world racing. But with a track like this, it's very hard to execute overtakes, especially as we look in here to DP Mario, car 11, the late substitute for Robert Foster, a car 11 for the BMW N6. Last time we saw him, he took a dominant victory at Daytona International Road Course, and it was a very awesome victory there. He was actually the first of the pro drivers, the first of the pro drivers to actually win ahead of the rest of the field. The last time we saw that was in the Pilot Series last year, when MotorMotion E-Series made its debut at Monza for round 2. So it's been a long time, but it's always great to see some different names leading the pack, and the pro drivers showing up to the elite boys saying, hey, I'm here to join you boys, I'm here to give it a go, I'm here to rough your feathers up. And that's definitely earned DP Mario an opportunity to actually now officially be classed as an elite driver and now racing with the big boys. Currently sitting third place in practice, so with that BMW M6 looking pretty strong in the hands of DP Mario. But Joel, yeah, absolutely. Like I said early in the broadcast, big congratulations here. And what are you expecting tonight for our 14 drivers here?
Absolutely, Nick. Thank you. It is good to be back, even if it is just a one-night special for me, as I do have a lot of responsibilities that have just been thrust upon me, and I'm very happy for all of them. But I can tell you right now, DP Mario not only pushing himself up into elite status as a reserve driver, but let's just say this, that is going to put a huge target on him to make sure he's selected for the next season. As a reserve driver, clearly he wasn't in the position to have a team seat. I believe this driver now is going to be hard sought after, as we've seen him both compete very well in Scarborough Motorsport, and now having another crack here in Diffusion Race Engineering here in round 8 in the elite category. So as he moves his way up through the field in skill level, I think this driver is going to be one of those people that people will not forget about. It's going to be amazing. This race here tonight is going to be absolutely fantastic. I think there's about 2 strategies that look like they're going to work. The 1-stop and the 2-stop. The 2-stop using softs and the 1-stop using mediums and softs. It's going to be very tricky. It's going to be very divergent on what happens through the race, whether there's incidences or not, or I'm not really sure how to make it make sense for you, Nick. It's one of those things, you've got to play it by ear. They're the 2 strategies that are going to happen. If you make a mistake, as we've just seen DP Mario go off wide there as they get ready for qualifying right now, if a mistake like that happens in the race, you're going to be looking to do the two-stop absolutely to try and make up for it. It's one of those things, mate. I'm not really sure how it will go. It's going to be one of those things we'll just have to call it as it is, like we usually do. And here we go as we get ready now as the drivers make their way out for their first outlap. Ready here now on the qualifying as we go live here with Lewis Atkinson in that NED Racing V12 Vantage.
Yeah, and going back on DP Mario, we've seen him show some really good glimmer and sparks through the short fire supercars earlier this season in 2023, representing both Russian racing and as well ISA esports. And we definitely saw a lot of progress from DP Mario. Stayed a little bit quiet, but then just came out of nowhere. And last time out, and I believe, and he just basically just surprised everyone. He was put in a good way of as being a great tuning driver, and as soon as put him in a GT3 car, he just shone against the rest of the field. So I'm very excited to see how he goes tonight. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, qualifying is underway, and as we are on board with Lewis Atkinson in the old girl and the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, the 2012 version, against all the other competitors, where you're looking at the 2016 Mercedes-Benz up ahead, and as we also as well looking at the 2016 BMW N6, sandwiching him in that championship between Davey and Scott. But it's very, very fine margins, as we said earlier on, and it's all about the qualifying around this track here, because it is, as I said, it is very notorious to find an overtake around here. You're basically just staying behind the rear wing of someone's car, and it's very important that you make sure you pressurize them into a mistake, because if you don't make a mistake here around this track, you're going to have a very hard time.
Nice! We see Atkinson make a massive mistake, get the wheels out onto the grass, spin it completely sideways. That's not what he was looking to do as we move up through the field. That is so unfortunate for him. Luckily it was only the outlap. Maybe he can recover.
Luckily for him, it's not the race.
Absolutely, that is true.
Absolutely, but yeah, I was just saying that it's very important to really hone in that driving line here around Suzuka. It's more or less a one-line track, because even coming through to the S curves here at the start of it, there's no room for an overtake around here. You're just sitting here and you're just waiting patiently, and when the patience just wears down thin, because as soon as it comes towards the exit here, coming through the Dunlop curve, as you come towards turn 7, you can see a driver really sneak, finding a little bit of a cheeky move on the inside right here, where Aussie Taylor's coming through, and you can really find someone that goes for that inside line, because they are desperate to make that overtake. And even through the Deckner curves, it's all about just really trying to get that one-liner in, because there is no chance of an overtake. You're waiting for someone to run wide, as we saw there with Scott in car 787.
And of
only
course,
real opportunity that you can find an overtake would be around here at the hairpin if you're very close. But even so, there's like 3 different lines that you can take through the hairpin, and both equally give you a good run out of that corner.
Absolutely, Nick. And of course, we are on board with the Gridline Racing car. It does look a little bit different from normal. The Racing at Suzuka, they're going to take the opportunity to race the retro livery that relates to the course. So the replica livery was used in 1979 Suzuka 500 mile by the BMW M1 Pro car. This was designed as a one-make series that pitted drivers from different categories against each other in what is regarded to this day as the best single-make series ever run. Back in 1979, the M1 competed in the Suzuka 500 mile event, having cleared customs only 1 day before the race. With minimal testing, practice, or setup, the car and its drivers somehow absolutely dominated on the day, finishing 4th overall and 1st in their respective division. So sporting the BMW colours against the silver body and beautiful gold rims, the Gridline Racing team hope that this livery will give them the extra tenths on track as they look to close the gap against Scarborough Motorsport.
Yeah, it's very unique, very easy design, but it's made to look mean, and especially with the hands of Andrew Scott and Scott Taylor in both elites and pro class. They both will be looking for putting themselves in a good position at the end of qualifying. Currently sitting position 3 is Andrew Scott, as we haven't seen Scott Taylor come through to the check start finish line just yet, but looks like it's a very nice retro livery car that Gridline Racing have got. And as you said, they are very close to Scarborough Motorsport in that team's championship. All it takes is a strong round here over the next few rounds, and you know it's going to be head to head come round 10.
Well, that's it, Nick. There's not much left. It's very close. So right now it's crunch time. If this team wants to overtake their competitors, they need to do it now. They need to make the move, get ahead, because there's only a couple of rounds left of battling. So they need to start putting in the work here early. Otherwise, it's going to be a very close nail biter.
And the other thing that really compromised Scarborough Motorsport last time out of Daytona was they had two substitute drivers in that race as well. So you have to keep that into consideration, because when you're a substitute driver driving for a team here at MotorMotion E-Series, you only score half the points that you do when you take victory or wherever you place in the at the end of the 1 hour stint. So
absolutely, that's why we do see the teams with half points there on the standings as well.
Yeah, so with DP Mario taking the victory, he didn't really score a lot of points for the team, so obviously that was reduced by half, and Nathan Hutton only finished P2, so he probably should have been the one taking the overall victory. But you know, as I said at the beginning, it's always lovely to see a pro driver outclassing the elite drivers, because we haven't seen that for quite some time here at MotorMotion, and it's always good to see, and especially, you know, with DP Mario being rewarded and moving up a class in the elite class, and so far doing a nice job in that Diffusion race engineering. Just currently sitting inside the top 5, but we have a few substitutes as well as DP Mario. I do see the Pete McKenzie and PJ Mack. Not so sure what team he's running for. He just looks like to come in. He's running for Scarborough Motorsport as well. So
yeah, so he's replacing Kane Patton, I believe.
Yes. Okay.
Which was also a replacement for their previous driver. So a little bit of magical chairs there at Scarborough Motorsport.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of musical chairs there, and you know, just to see who can get what. And you know, Scarborough Motorsport saw Mackenzie's great performance last time out in the track race at TCR Cup at Catalunya after scoring a top 5, and Dylan Scarborough didn't hesitate whatsoever to say to him, "Would you like to come drive for us in the Porsches around this beautiful circuit here in Japan?" And he had no hesitations at all. And he's definitely one with the track is PJ Mack, and currently sitting 7th overall, which I do believe is actually going to be putting him in provisional pole position for his class, which is actually a very good start.
Yes, that's absolutely right. He is the first pro driver on the ranks there at the moment, doing a fantastic job. And as you did mention, the other substitute that you did see was DP Mario racing for Diffusion Race Engineering, running a purple sector now, so really pushing that BMW to its absolute limits. We'll stay with him now just until the end of this race. Might even go on board with him if the cam will allow it.
Oh, getting really taily there, getting that little effect of the dirty air coming from that Gridline Racing driver. Does it affect his whole time?
Up to 3rd, but he does gain a position, so congratulations to him. Hopefully he can get enough time in to do another lap. As we move down the field, I believe there are another couple of drivers that are doing a replacement.
I believe it was
Griffin there.
I did see there was another Aston representing different colours, so it's back-to-back rounds for Tony Griffin in car 62, replacing Drew Eisen in that NED Racing. So we go from orange back to green for the 2nd time in a row. So it's good to see Griffo back in that Aston Martin, currently sitting 13th overall, and actually ahead of Nick Pearce in 14th place there. So Nick Pearce in Strike Race Tech. You can see Shane Addard and Pearce here, and you know, with the comments from what Ryan and I mentioned last time out at Daytona, the Strike Race Tech really struggling this season, and unfortunately for them, they are really finding themselves under the back foot.
We do have to wonder, Nick, if it has anything to do with the pre-streaming phone call that we did receive from Nick. Was you know, many beers being had there by the Strike Race Tech team. They were really enjoying themselves, having a great time, saying how much they love the MotorMotion E-Series. maybe they're just having a little bit too much fun and not being quite serious enough. But the thing is, it's all about fun here, that's for sure. But we can tell you right now that these drivers are very competitive. It's not one of those things you can twiddle your thumbs about and have a bit of fun and race. These guys are fast. They make all of us look slow. These guys do a really good job.
And these guys are the reasons why they are in this category, and that's why they are elite and pro drivers, because they are really setting up an example amongst the field. As we see there, James Lee, the team boss of Black Rose Racing, has just gone to provisional pole position there with a 1 minute 58.2, so they only popped up with about 4.5 minutes to go. So we've got the two Mercedes-Benz and James Lee and Morgan Davey up in first and second, then Nathan Hutton, Andrew Scott third and fourth place, and the substitute driver in Mario in fifth place, and Lewis actually down the order in sixth, with Von Duvey in seventh. So that rounds up your top 7 in the elite class. And then the first of the pro class of drivers is Scott Barlow, sitting on provisional pole position, and then Glenn Mead not far behind, actually very close between Glenn Mead and GLR Scotty, so nothing in it, only by 0.018 separating the top 3 in pro class.
That's absolutely fantastic to see, wouldn't you agree? Like, the top 3 drivers of the pro class being within a whisker.
Yeah, that is very close here. And then we saw Brucey actually go purple, not just for his class, but for the overall pole position. So we'll watch his time going through Deckner 1 and then through to Deckner 2, approaching the hairpin, going under the bridge, whereas the next timing sector on this track, he only goes personal best through to sector 2. And the hardest part of the track, I would say, is going through to the hairpin and really just try and find that line, get the power on as early as you dare without spinning the car into a tail snap.
He's done a fantastic job in the BMW there. Really early on the power, but not getting it sideways. Really hammering the car down to the final corners here, pushing it in tight. Hopefully runs it out wide and tight again. Oh, not quite the optimal line, but very close. Heavy on the hammer, runs it a bit wide. He's going to lose time there across the dirt. So it's unfortunate for him. I don't expect to see him go purple again. But
yeah, he lost it on there. He lost it on the exit of Spoon curve there. So you can just see that he lost well over 4/10 in that sector alone. So he really struggled to. I was actually very interested as well that when he was coming through to turns 12 before Spoon curve, he actually didn't take the inside narrower line on the right hand side, where that actually kind of reduces your gap. That those microsectors to the nearest, point decimal, and it's very important to really just run that narrow line, and then that way you set yourself up for a good entry and exit out of Spoon curve. But he ran too wide at Spoon curve, and you could just see just really struggling to get the power down. Maybe just needed some fresh tires, and that's when his pit crew came into the radio and just said, "We need you to box," because he only got about 2 minutes to go, or yeah, just a bit over 2 minutes to go until the end of this session. Now see Andrew Scott's actually starting to go provisional pole position right now, currently sitting in first place with a 1 minute 51.1. So that was the last minute of the lap.
And he's out into the wall, pushing the car way too hard. It's got all sorts of damage up the front, as we just see. I think that was HC Lewis just managing to get around him without contact. That is very unlucky for the Gridline Racing team, as we see him absolutely disappear, getting ready to repair that car before the race.
Yeah,
so he's pushed the car to the limit to get that lap time, push it even harder to try and improve it, and unfortunately push it a little bit too hard. James Lee now has the opportunity to try and outdo Ando, which will give him a very minimal time to fight back. And of course, Morgan Davey is currently in the pits, so our top 3 is almost seated, with James Lee's lap depending on this one here. It doesn't look like he's pushing it. I really don't think he's going for the lap. I think he's just looking to complete it and set himself up for another one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just currently, and I misread that, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was a 15-minute session. It's actually a 20-minute qualifying session. So I do apologise for that. So we only do have about just less than 5.5 to go. But James Lee, yeah, not really setting the world alight. But I tell you what, Lewis is already in. He's another driver that's into the 1 minute 58s. So Lee setting himself up for a lap of 1 minute 58.4. So between the top 5, it's just under 2.5 tenths of a second there. So it's so close between that top 5. DP Murray's a little bit further behind in 6th place, but that's the substitute driver on his first race as an elite driver, sitting in 6th place, well ahead of Von Duvey. Mackenzie in PJ Mack has gone up into provisional pole position in the gold class with a 1 minute 59. So it's a very nice lap there by the Porsche driver for Scarborough Motorsport, just ahead of Scotty Barlow in 9th place. He's just come into the pit lane for a fresh set of boots. This will be his last stop, his last attempt to go for that hot lap. He's going to try and get at least 2 more laps in, but he's going to wait for the driver that's coming through to turn 1 right now.
Which of course is Brucey. Brucey making his way past. Oh no, sorry, my apologies. It's not in order of the track. I thought that was the gridline driver. So the gridline driver was GLR Scotty. That is correct. So he's there in 11th place. So letting him pass and maybe possibly grabbing the slipstream off him could be really good for him. So we'll just have to wait and see how Scott goes.
Hutton has just gone to pole position there with a 1 minute 58 flat. So I just saw that pop up on our timing screen. So that is very close. Drivers are tickling that higher 1 minute 57s, but it's not. But they've got to find some time here. Unfortunately for Hudson, he's just about to run out of fuel. I don't know if he's going to be able to make this last lap count, but you never know. If you really save that little bit of fuel there, you can really maximize the Porsche. Very well known for its fuel conservation, but can he get 1 more lap on that fuel tank and set of tires? We'll find out shortly in car 47. But we did see Ando there going past the hairpin and making his run up towards Spoon Curve with about less than 3.5 to go. It's about to see what he can do through Spoon Curve. How does he negotiate this corner here, the entry and exit? Very important here. Just it's a long time that you're on the left-hand steering angle.
We've just seen HC Lewis also jump up in front of Ando only by 0.42. Sorry, 0.042, just ahead. So hopefully Ando can jump back in front on the end of this lap. He's right on the tail of it now. Final couple of corners to navigate. As long as he can push the car to its absolute limits, as we can see it absolutely flying, pushing right over the edges.
He's not near the times there, so again, he's setting himself up for another lap, but that was a very good lap there by Lewis Atkinson in the Aston Martin for NED Racing. So Ando's got about 2 and a bit more laps to go. He's going to be able to get another lap in after this one. It just depends how his tyres are at the end of this first lap, whether they are very overheated and they might not be able to provide more grip there. But turn 1, the corner where we famously saw Ayrton Senna and Alan Prost go off in 1990. It was McLaren versus Ferrari at the time. Then it's going to be an interesting battle to see who will take out pole position here and who will be able to get out, who will be able to negotiate turn 1 without any scars, without any hard brakes. But Morgan Davey in 5th place there. And that's a surprising name there to see him down there as the championship leader.
He was sitting in the pits for a long period of time. So we'll just have to wait and see if he was playing by a little bit of strategy, just by sitting there and letting everyone get into a rhythm, trying to find a gap, or whether he was just taking a break. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think, and it's very trademark Davey as well. I think he's done this a couple of times in the GT3 Championship. Yeah, he's a very late qualifier and he just provides us with stunning laps and with like one lap wonders. Has Morgan Davey, the privateer, one of the only privateers in the elite and pro class, and is showing an example here in the GT3 Championship, sponsored by Player1. It's the same with Scott Taylor in the track race and TCR Cup. He's doing a fantastic job as a privateer driver and really getting us off there. So I did see DP Murray improve his lap time there. He's now into the 1 minute 58s after being stuck in the 59s, but very crucial lap here for Morgan Davey in 5th place. This will be his final lap. I do need to keep my eyes on Andrew Scott there, because we did catch him going around the track on that hot lap there.
We just saw a Scarborough Motorsport Porsche blowing a little bit of smoke in the background there, sitting off the track. So we'll have to wait and see what happened there. Maybe a fuel rod, I think. Possibly.
And Scott Taylor's gone up into provisional pole position for gold class there.
Oh, he's moved his way up to 7th. Yes, good call.
GLR Scotty doing a fantastic job getting that car up to provisional pole. And Davey, oh, he just went around and that's his session over. So Morgan Davey really going to be struggling to get his car on any further up there with damage on that front splitter. So he's out. Oh, that's going to be a little bit of, and I guess that's what happens when you lose a bit of time, when you spend a bit of too much time in the pit lane, not really getting used to the track.
And of course, we will not forget about Ando on his final lap right now, his last chance to improve.
Don't see any improvements. He's a 10th down. You can still find a 10th around this track here, especially through these long corners, these long right-handers, the hairpin, and then through Spoon Curve. You're just really waiting patiently to get on the throttle there. But so far, it's Hutton on pole for Scarborough Motorsport, Lewis Atkinson for NED Racing in second place, and then Andrew Scott for Gridline Racing, James Lee, Morgan Davey, DP Mario, the top 6 all in different teams and the privateer teams. So it's great to see diversity amongst the teams here tonight. But GLR Scotty, that's an improvement on a lap time. They're bringing his form from the Track Racing TCR Cup to the Player1 GT3 Championship, and it's really showing. He's only 10th down on his time here, so really send that car through 130R and then try and get Casio triangle for the last time and try to nail your points here.
Absolutely,
on that
praying the tyres hold on, absolutely. So you can just hear them screaming through the corners, sending that BMW for everything it's got, and he's across the line only just down on his best lap time. What a fantastic drive from GLR Scotty.
Oh, Barlow's just come through on that last lap as well. So Barlow's just taken that pole position away from GLR Scotty. I just saw the timing screen there. So Scott Barlow for Black Rose Racing on that last lap, and only by 0.029 of a second. So with GLR Scotty running wide on the first part of Casio, and then Scott Barlow just comes through out of nowhere. So that really cost Scotty that pole position time there, because that was a very great lap there by the Black Rose Racing driver. But so far, I don't see any improvements there. I believe everyone is done with 2 drivers sitting in the pit lane. So it is a big congratulations to Nathan Hutton for Scarborough Motorsport getting pole position in the elite class in the Platinum Championship, and Scott Barlow getting pole position for the Pro class in the Gold Championship. So big congratulations to those two. But Morgan Davey sitting in P5 there, a lot of work to do around this track here, Joel, especially when it's very hard to do an overtake.
Absolutely, that's going to be the big challenge for the drivers here tonight, is getting the overtakes done cleanly. Not only is it one of the hardest tracks to get a clean overtake on, it's one of the hardest overtaking tracks around. There's not many opportunities, and you've really got to send it. Now, if you send it too deep into a corner, you risk 2 things: crashing and crashing into your opponent. Crashing into your opponent is going to be more detrimental than crashing by yourself, because if you get reported and lose extra points, that's extra points for you and your team. Not good. So we're going to want to make sure that you get this done very, very cleanly. As we look at the results one more time for you, we had Niv47 take out the race win for Scarborough Motorsport with a 158.026. Now, Nick, how fast is that around this track?
It's pretty fast, but last Friday night I did a 1:57, so I can brag on that for Niv Hutton. So, but no, it is a very strong lap time of 1:58. So he's done a very good job. The only MR car that we're seeing on this grid here for MotorMotion Player1 GT3 Championship to get pole position. So very strong pole position there. I think the biggest surprise is actually that Vantage just comes from out of nowhere, and that car just keeps chugging along in this championship, and just keeps playing the underdog role here. And with Lewis behind the wheel, you know, a capable hands that the guys at NED Racing have in Lewis Atkinson. He's, you know, a young talent, and my goodness, he can make any car work around any track, and he's showing that with a P2 on the track there. And then with Andrew Scott, unfortunately not able to improve his lap time in 3rd place. Then James Lee from Black Rose Racing in 4th, with his teammate and Scott Barlow in 7th overall, but on pole position for the Pro Class Gold Championship. Morgan Davey, DP Mario 5th and 6th, and then GLR Scotty in 8th place, just behind Scotty Barlow.
And of course, as we move on to the next page, we've got Von Duve there in the F-Type for WTC with a 159. PJ Mack in the non-11s for Scarborough Motorsport with a 159.5. Brucey in the M6 for Diffusion Race Engineering with a 159.6. We got Peasy for Strike Race Tech, 2-minute point 2. And then, of course, his teammate Sir Dids right behind, 2-minute point 270. So very close between the teammates there. Aussie Taylor there in the WTC with a 2-minute point 36. And Tony Griffin rounding out our qualifying rear of the grid with a 2-minute point 6.
Absolutely, and it's only separated by 2.5 seconds between the top 15, so that's actually not too bad amongst the field here tonight. So you can definitely see the boys that are in their 58s all the way up from Niff 47 and Nathan Hudson, all the way down through to DP Mario in 6th place. Those boys will be in on another level, but look towards Scott Barlow in 7th place, all the way down to Tony Griffin. That'll be a very close battle. Between 7th and 15th place. I feel like the top 6 might just run away a little bit with this race here and just be belling it out for the line honours here. But as well, we do have to keep our eye out on that second pack, which is the Pro Class Gold Championship. So only a few more minutes before we get ourselves underway here, Joel. I mean, I don't want you to be. I know you're a team boss at NED Racing. Hopefully you're not too biased. But who are you gonna be placing your victory earnings on for tonight's race? It's now along around this track. It's very hard on the tires, hard on the driver's mentality, because it is a one-liner. It is a one-line track. So who do you think could really withstand these conditions?
Look, to be honest, I really do think Lewis is going to put a great challenge out there in the V2 Advantage. It does have a massive disadvantage, haha, pun intended. Unfortunately, being such an older car, as long as he can stay in the slipstream, he will be competitive. But I think the race win tonight will end up going to Niff in the 911 for Scarborough Motorsport, just solely based on that car's performance. 1 on fuel, and 2 on driver ability. That guy is an absolute machine, and that Porsche is also an absolute weapon. So I believe it will probably be a 1-2 from Niff, Lewis, and I think Lee, Ando, and Davey will all be battling it out very closely behind. I'm really impressed to see DP Mario finishing in 6th in the qualifying. That guy was only in the Pro Series not long ago as a reserve driver, now up into the elite and finishing 6th overall. That is not a bad effort at all for him. So if he can make his way up through here, that'll be a huge, hey, recruit me for the next season. Now that's my prediction for the elite drivers in the Platinum Championship. If we have a look at the Gold Championship, I think Scotty has this in the bag. I think there's absolutely no doubt that he's going to win it. And if anyone comes out of the cracks, I think it might actually be Brucey, Big Bruce the Shark. He did finish down in the qualifying, finishing in 11th place. So that's where he'll start on the grid. But we've seen him start low and finish high round after round. So it'll be one of those things to keep an eye out. I think Scotty's going to take the win, and Big Bruce the Shark won't be too far behind.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're going to see plenty of surprises there. As you said there with DP Murray, he's only less than 5/10 behind Niff, who was his teammate last time out at Daytona International Road Course, but now obviously opposing rivals in the Diffusion and Scarborough Motorsport. And it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how far he moves up the field from 6th place. But again, he is showing to the drivers there that even though I was a pro driver last time out, I can still bring in these lap times here, and I can really shock the system to everyone that's in a big team. So he'll be looking for that big seat next year. But I have a feeling, and I always have to, and I have to back my man. I have to go with. I have a feeling that I'm definitely going to be seeing Ando having a crack tonight at victory tonight, as he's very highly regarded as the tyre whisperer in all forms of racing that he does here. So look out for him, and I think as well his teammate Scott Taylor in that pro class. So watch out for the 2 Gridline Racing boys representing those retro vibes for the Suzuka from the Suzuka races in the early 80s. But here we go, Joel. It is the beginning of what is going to be a long and fast hour here at Suzuka Circuit. 5.8 kilometers for, I'm thinking, roughly about 31, 32 laps here. And it's all about just trying to negotiate turn one on that opening lap on cold tyres.
As we see the cars starting to roll out on the grid, waiting to go. Gridline Racing. The flags are getting ready to drop, and Niff gets an amazing jump off the line. Look at him make the gap there on Lewis. Fantastic moving into the first corner as we follow Lewis through right behind Niff. Wow, holy moly, these two drivers off the bat have got a fantastic launch. I know it's a rolling start, but you can see the gap there already between second and third. These guys have had a fantastic run into turn one. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. A very good start there by Lewis to keep right in touch with Hutton in first place. We can see there both the front three are running on the medium tyres. It looks like right behind James Lee, he might be on the soft tyres. That's why he's really pressurising. And
on the mediums.
Actually on the mediums as well. So very poor, very slow start here for Andrew Scott. Maybe not got his tyre temperatures, not tyre pressures in the right phase here in this opening sequence of the race here. But Morgan Davey on the soft tyres, the first of the drivers on the soft tyres, and he's going to be looking to make some moves nice and early. He's going to try an inside move on James Lee. And he sticks the nose on the inside, doesn't execute that. Very tricky to make a move, as we see right behind there, Aussie Taylor right behind there making a move on, I believe that was Glenn Mead, who's actually dropped down the order in those opening laps. So a bit of a struggle there for Glenn Mead. And we have Gio Lascotti right behind his rival in Scott Barlow, sitting in P2 in class, ahead of Von Duvey, who is in that elite class championship, in that platinum championship in 9th place. And then Peter McKenzie rounds up the top 10 with the two-strike Race Tech boys in Nick Pears and Shane Addard in 11th and 12th place. But it's still a great start there by Niff and Lewis in first and second there. They're really just trying to struggle to get his tyres into phase there, but wait for the next couple of laps for him to really push the car to his limit. As I see a driver at the back there. I see a bit of an incident there between Aussie Taylor and Shane Addard. See if we can find a replay on those two, because that looked like a nasty incident coming through on the exit of 130R. No, it was actually Addard that just ran wide. Yeah, he actually ran wide, so no contact at all from any of the drivers. That was all Shane Addard all by himself there. He's got damage onto the rear of his car. But I'm looking down the field there. Something's happened massively to Bruce the Shark there, and he's down in 15th and last place. Well out of the order here with damage on that front left suspension and
he's not even coming up to the corner where the other incident was yet. So this has happened early in the race for him. He might have made contact with someone early on. We haven't seen anyone else hit the pits yet, so we'll just have to wait and see whether it was maybe he's made a mistake by himself, or whether he's actually made contact with someone. As we see right now, another incident as he goes wide. Pulling the
car up to the side. He might be putting an early retirement here in round 8 of the Player1 GT3 Championship. We'll find out. We'll bring all that development news very shortly. But as we come back to the front, we see Morgan Davies actually made a few positions on that soft tyre. He's gone from 5th to 3rd place in the manner of the first lap. So it's a very good start there by Morgan Davey. And now he needs to find that pace to get close to Hutton and Lewis to get any chances to make a strategy work there, because he can't be held up by medium runners.
Absolutely, that's right, isn't it, Nick? Because when you've got the softs, you've really only got about 4 or 5 laps to make them work before the mediums and the softs sort of start to interlap on compatibility. So you need about 5 laps where these soft tyres are going to be well more advantageous than the mediums. So you've only got about 5 laps to make it move. We're on lap 2. Coming on to lap 3 now, he's made 2 positions. Can he make 2 more in the next 2 laps?
Well, he's just taken he's taken 4 tenths out of Lewis's and Niff's time on that last lap, so he is closing. He is finding some extra grip on those soft tyres. The medium tyres runners are still trying to pressurize or find that pressure point on the tyre temperatures and the PSI ranges that between the front and the rear tyres. But it looks like He's looks like Davey has found the right pressure balance on his car, and he's really plucking through. As you see a yellow flag up ahead there, I believe that might be for Glenn Meads. It looks like he may have just come out of the pit lane and really struggling to get his car working amongst the field here. So unfortunately for
there we go.
second, yeah, it is. Yeah, that is Glenn Mead there. So he's really struggled, and he's just parked it on the side there. So whether that might be a slowdown zone, might be a caution, it might be a virtual safety car. We'll wait and see to see what happens with car 999.
It's really unfortunate to see cars off the side like that. We never want to see any of these drivers injured or hurt. It's just one of those things. It does happen. It's a racing environment, but unfortunately, sometimes these things do happen.
It's a little bit unfortunate to see that Diffusion race engineering driver. The team hasn't really struggled with Robert Foster at the helm, and being a strong driver as Robert Foster, unfortunately, hasn't really been able to get his foot going in the right direction, trying to take victories. He's got podiums, but he hasn't taken any victories. Not like what we saw in the Surefire Supercar Series in that West End Mechanical Chevrolet Camaro. But with Glenn Mead behind the wheel, it's actually very surprising there. Like, he's done a good job this season, I would say, like in his debut season in the MotorMotion E-Series. And he's done very well. I believe he took a double victory at Watkins Glen only a couple of rounds ago. So he's got the pace, he's got the momentum. Unfortunately, just with a track that is as grueling as Suzuka, once you do make a mistake and you do lose a lot of time, unfortunately for you as a driver, it is game over, because this track is really hard to find time if the drivers don't make a mistake.
Absolutely, Nick. It's one of those things, like we said earlier, there's not a lot of places to overtake, there's not a lot of places to make up time. So if you make a mistake, it's going to cost you for the rest of the race. As we see Big Brucey the Shark here, still limping around with massive damage. We expect to see him in the pits at the end of this lap. Really unfortunate for him and for Diffusion Race Engineering. Those guys have been looking really good in the last couple of rounds. So this is just going to hurt them absolutely massively.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a mechanical fault there, because you could just see him playing with the steering wheel, like really just trying to get some sort of feedback through his power steering. So maybe he's got a bit of a power steering failure. That's maybe why we saw a little bit of smoke when he went off into the gravel trap on that previous lap there. But we'll find out some more information about the Diffusion Race Engineer driver later on in the broadcast and see what the go is there. But Davey has moved up into position 2 now, gotten ahead of HC Lewis, and is now on the back of Nathan Hutton in the Scarborough Motorsports Porsche 911. He's reeling that time in, coming towards the extra smooth curve. As we go for the onboard with Lewis Atkinson looking into the foreground of both Davey and Hutton. 1 and 2 in this race there, but with Lewis 2.1 ahead of Andrew Scott, it's actually a very good position he's put himself in to be ahead of Nando, and only about 1.5 behind Hutton in first place. So it's a good gap for Lewis to be in, especially with a car that's very heavy on fuel and on tyres.
It's a bit unfortunate that the Aston Martin is so outdated in the field, but these guys here at NED Racing have put their head down and given it everything they've got. I'm really proud of them myself. I know it hasn't been the ideal situation, but these guys have just been all smiles, real happy to race for NED, and I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to the next season.
Definitely see, like, as we were on that onboard going down the pit straight, you can definitely see short shifting even through the S curves. He's really just short shifting the car through there, just a downshift and an upshift and a downshift and an upshift. It's kind of like you're playing the piano, like at the concert hall or something like that at Royal Albert.
If you say so. I know it's an art, but that's kind of pushing it.
It's an art to save fuel, so it's well demonstrated there by Lewis Atkinson.
But like everyone guessed, the Porsche is out in front. We're on lap 5 at the moment of what we predict to be 32 lap race. 15 minutes remaining. It's going to be absolutely fantastic here at the Suzuka circuit. We do have Scarborough Motorsport out in front with their driver NIF 47, as you can see on screen. Of course, that is Hutton as you see on the side of the car. Moving down the field, we've got Davey, the privateer, in second in that Mercedes, right behind him, tucking into that slipstream, trying to make sure he pulls as much advantage as he can coming down the straight. We know the Porsche's got the better top end, but sitting in the slipstream, he's going to save fuel and time. HC Lewis unfortunately couldn't stay in the slip. He's just behind in that Aston Martin, as we've mentioned. Old Girl is hanging on for dear life, and a fantastic driver, young gun, a little bit too keen for the beans sometimes, but he's doing a fantastic job tonight. Ando, our resident speedster, out in front, running that retro livery for Gridline Racing. 4th place. Fantastic job holding off James Lee, team boss for Black Rose Racing. Very fast driver in his own right, but as we've seen, Ando and of course Rolskin Hartley battling it out all season. Unfortunately, Rolls not able to be here tonight, nor his partner in Group B, which is of course Mrs. Rolls. Unfortunately, both of those are away for a international racing competition. These guys race remote control cars. How cool is that, Nick?
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting, and that's actually a very good side hobby to do there. So, competing in a championship. Yeah, I've never actually been able to, play with a remote control. I don't think I haven't played with a remote control car in such a long time. But the last one I got was like an RC replica of like an old Marcus Ambrose 2005 Ford Falcon, like from the V8 Supercars. That's the only remote control car I've ever had.
Those were the days back then. But I tell you what, some of the pictures that these guys have sent me, it's a very intense competition. The cars come up into a pit lane, they jump up to the side, you grab them, you drop the fuel in them, and you send them off again. It's a very intense, realistic battle, and I'm really impressed with some of the images that have been sent through tonight. They're currently qualified in 2nd place on their first setting, so they've made it straight through to the preliminary. So good luck to them tonight. Hopefully they get a win and show some ribbons, because unfortunately both Diffusion Race Engineering and NED Racing will be missing out on points.
Yeah, unfortunately for them. But as we can see there, the DP Murray is doing a fantastic job holding the void in Robert Foster's 270, now turns car 11 in that Diffusion Race Engineering there. But you can look ahead, James Lee really tucking into that slipstream from Andrew Scott there, trying to look for a move around the outside. Going into turn 1 is very risky at this stage of the race on lap 7. You don't want to be making moves that early. You want to be waiting your time.
Oh!
He's lost the back end of the car and he's half spotted. Can he keep it on the black stuff? Oh, he's just saved it there. So a beautiful save there by Jimmy Lee, the Black Rose Racing driver, just coming up ahead of his teammate there in 7th place. That was a very good save there. Well caught on board there by our camera crew there, and that was a bit of a brown pants moment there for James Lee. Really tucked into the back end of Andrew Scott's BMW M6. But unfortunately, as I saw there, he pushed a little bit too hard, trying to go for an outside move in turn 1.
What do we think happened, Nick? Do we think that was whitewash from the car in front?
No, I have a feeling. I think it's because he was really just trying to get past Ando, and I think he was just trying to look for a little bit of a slingshot effect out of turn 1 going into turn 2. And I think he just may have just applied too much throttle on the exit. Maybe caught the green turf, Astro turf on the next to the curbs, and unfortunately that definitely spun his car into a half spin. Nearly
we saw the car. Yeah, that was very close. We saw the car go to the left and then to the right. I was just wondering if maybe some of the air from the outside of the car grabbed it and pushed it sideways just slightly, which put that car on the turf. But either way, we can tell you one thing: what a save! Well done.
Yeah, that was a very good save there by James Lee, and I don't think he'll want to be doing that again later on this evening with only about 46 minutes to go. I don't think he wants to do another moment like that. He just needs to get his car in a very good position to try and get those team championship points and propel themselves up into that top 3, top 4 in this GT3 Championship, sponsored by Player1 Racing here it's really nice to see the boys in Player 1 bringing out that prize there. As you said earlier in the broadcast, they're racing gloves for both division champions. And my goodness, if James Lee's got some Player 1 gloves there, I'm pretty sure they would have worked to an absolute perfection.
That's right, my friend. Player 1 Sim Gear, our official race sponsor. What an amazing group they are. Player 1 Sim Gear was created by sim enthusiasts for sim enthusiasts. They're a Melbourne-based and 100% Australian-owned and operated company. When they launched Player 1, they set out to create an online destination for sim racers, flight simmers, not to mention sim farmers, sim pilots, sim truckers, and all other kinds of sim race fans. To shop for all the best hardware brands at the best price, make sure you visit www.p1simgear.com.au, the proud and official sponsors of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship.
What I've actually noticed there as well, I did see Scott Taylor down the order in 12th place, or just outside in 12th and 13th place. There's he definitely struggling there, unless he made an unscheduled pit stop in 13th place there. I'm not so sure, because you can see that through his lap times, 2:10, 2:19, 2:12. So I don't know. I don't know if he's made a mistake but it looks like he has got a fresh set of soft tires. I have a feeling that he may have made a pit stop on a couple of laps ago on lap 6, because
I'm not sure if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing the headlights flash. Do you think he might be on controller tonight? Has something gone wrong with his wheel?
Not too sure there. I didn't actually catch on that. So, very interesting analogy there. Not so sure if he's actually flashing the headlights. Maybe he just wants a bit of airtime. So just like saying, "Hey, I know you've caught me right now. I'll give you a bit of a flash." Sure, you can get that team series. One of your administrators for MotorMotion E-Series in GLR Scott Taylor. The other two in Dylan Scarborough and Jeff running in the Silver and Bronze Championship. As you can follow us on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. You can also watch along in the Group B lobby, where it's live and broadcasted free to the YouTube channel by George Cooke, and he's working alongside him. He's a very good commentator, and he does the Group B lobby justice, and the Group B boys always have a fun time doing their commentary. So watch those guys at the end of this stream. But I guess in a way we have to say, this has to be the top stream for us here, Joel. We're one of the pioneers when it comes to bringing into a great broadcast. But also going to give credit to George there, doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely, George was one of the first guys that we brought on to do for a second position, besides myself, and he's been doing a fantastic job ever since. So hats off to George. He's been absolutely amazing. We've been loving having him here in the MotorMotion E-Series as a commentator, and of course a broadcaster. It's two jobs. It really is. It really is two jobs.
It definitely is there. Did see Niff really drifting the car on the exit smooth curve, and even coming through 130R, the car is really just going a little bit sideways. The rear's just starting to lose out a little bit on that Porsche 911, as you can see it on the tyre graphic model there.
Absolutely.
All four of those tyres are roughly the same wear on the same wear, and you can definitely see he's really struggling. Lewis has actually gained a couple of tenths on this lap on Nathan Hudson in second place.
We'll see the fronts being very similar, but the rears being a little bit less on that Aston Martin. Of course, the weight being pushed up front. And of course, that Porsche got very sideways. We saw a little bit of heat. Morgan Davey sideways. There we go. Wow, the Mercedes chewing more rear tyres than the Porsche. So we'll have a crack at getting a replay. I'm not sure if we can go far enough back. There he is there, absolutely spinning him. So he's had a bit of a moment, spun the tyres trying to get back flat, and now we're in a very tight race. So we can see 1, 2, and 3.
Not only this, Joel, he's on the soft tyres as well, so he'll be looking to potentially make a 2-stop if he wants to go aggressive, but I'm not so sure if the 2-stop might be the way to go. I think he was just trying to look to build an advantage over the medium runners, and then maybe run the mediums towards the end. So it'll be very interesting to see what Morgan Davey does if he decides to come in the next couple of laps there. But that's really opened up the battle for Hudson and Atkinson to really close up in that top 3. The top 3 very well separated by 1.5 seconds between those 3 drives. Absolutely incredible. And then right behind, lurking in that background there, as always, is that tyre whisperer in Andrew Scott. I want to see his tyres compared to the top 3 because knowing him,
wow, the tyre whisperer. He is put himself in a fantastic position. He's not too far behind the top 3, and his tyres look amazing. Yes, his fuel is quite down, but wow, this guy, I tell you what, he's going to be able to keep cruising along. You're going to catch up to the back of these guys, use their slip, and just stay with them and play with them until the very end. This is fantastic strategy 101.
Absolutely. We've just cracked the 20-minute mark. We've got less than 40 to go here. Top 3, Morgan Davey, Nathan Hudson, Lewis Atkinson, followed right behind, and Andrew Scott, as we see DP Mario now into the pit lane, getting off those medium tyres for Diffusion Race Engineering. And then right behind, as we just saw a few laps ago, James Lee in 5th place ahead of his teammate and Scott Barlow. Then Peter McKenzie replacing Kane Patton for Scarborough Motorsport in 7th place. I believe that is 2nd in class for Peter McKenzie. And then Tony Griffin as well, doing a fantastic job there to be up there right behind McKenzie in 8th place overall, but 3rd in class, and he's right, and you can actually see Scott Barlow there. So this is a very strong performance there by Griffin, even though he qualified down in last place in 15th.
Yeah, fantastic drive for him. We have seen time and time again, he usually qualifies towards the end, but he does a great job on track pretty much until the last 2 laps. That's where he seems to crash and something goes wrong. So we're to have our fingers crossed and get high enough up through the race at this point in time and doesn't make a mistake. So we see Piers there now in 9th place, needing to make his way up. I believe probably the last of the elite drivers at the moment. No, sorry, my mistake. DP Mario just behind.
Yes, he's just come into the pit lane, DP Mario, so he's just came in for a fresh set of tyres. He's thrown on the soft tyres now. GLR Scotty as well, a few laps ago, came into the pit lane on lap 6. Really struggling to get those tyres at this temperature, but he's getting his PB laps in a 2-minute flat 0.5, and he's actually looking to go green on this lap. So he's right behind Von Duvey from WTC-Racing and a 6.1 ahead of Aussie Taylor in the other Jaguar from WTC-Racing. So now we finally see Morgan Davey, the first of the soft runners in the pit lane, in 3rd place, coming from the lead, dropping down the order. What tyres will he put on at the end of this stint? So those Goodyears are the fresh Goodyears coming onto car 33, but we'll find and see what tyres that is actually going to be put on that car as we wait to see the fuel go into the car 33 Deeds Brewery. Sponsored entry is the medium tyres, so he's thrown the mediums. He's going to get ahead of the Strike Race Tech driver in Nick Pearce. He does, so that's very crucial.
We did see him start on the soft, so now he's going to try and run mediums to the end. I believe that's a strategy for him. He's doing a reverse to some of the other drivers, where they start on the mediums and go to the softs to the end. Will he do the one stopper here? What do we got, Nick? We're on lap 12, so we're looking to have at least another 10 laps. You reckon that's possible with the fuel that he's put in the car?
He's short fueled the car, so he's going to go for a short stint on the medium tyres. So he's going to be able to throw throw another set of softs for the last stint. So he's just really trying to work that as we see some yellow flags up ahead.
Oh,
like
2 cars off to the
side there between a couple of drives. It is
James Lee.
Looks like he got caught up with Glenn Mead in the background there, so we'll see if we can find a replay to see what happened. Maybe Lee got caught in the dirty air, but this race for Lee is just going from bad to worse. No, it was actually beforehand, so Mead made a mistake after him. So James Lee, his race just goes from bad to worse. Black Rose Racing, not a one with Suzuka, and that's the thing around with this track here, Joel. If you don't have a rhythm here, your race is not going to feel like an hour. It's going to feel like it's going to go for 3 hours, because every time you make a mistake, it's excruciating pain to get yourself back into the rhythm.
That's absolutely right, Nick. One of these things is just absolutely painful. You know, you just want these to go absolutely perfectly. As we see another car off in the background, no team wants to see anything go wrong. Everyone wants to have that perfect dream. Everyone wants to have the magical finish. But unfortunately, in racing, it's very rare.
Absolutely right. So, unfortunately, he's just going to be struggling towards the end here. He'll be looking to try and come into the pit lane and really get off those tyres, those medium tyres, and throw on some soft tyres. A little bit of relief for Black Rose Racing. We'll find out if he comes in very shortly there. Tony Griffin, I think, has just come into the pit lane as well in position 11 there for NED Racing. Car 62, if I correct, if memory serves me right, just ahead of GLR Scotty he has. So he's on the medium tyres. He's gone for a short stint on the medium tyres. So this will be very crucial for Griffin to actually stay ahead of Scott Taylor in car 37 and stay on those medium tyres, get that clean air, keep Scotty right behind you, and come into the pit lane on a low tank and put on a fresh boot, soft tyres, and a half tank again, and really send that Aston Martin V12 advantage around this 5.8-kilometre circuit. But the front three are still looking pretty good, with Hudson, Lewis, and Atkins still occupying your top three podiums. But Andrew Scott really safe in those tyres, and that wizardry is playing along very nicely. He's closed up to the back end of Atkinson's Aston Martin V12 Vantage, and as we can see, Atkinson really struggling on the front end of his car, not able to find the grip, the turning points. You can see really applying the brakes pretty hard there. Nando's actually gone more or less flat through 130R, and look at, he's closing at about 4/10 there in one corner here, Joel. That's absolutely fantastic, and that's actually a clutch by Ando, but he's lost a little bit of time there on the exit of Casio, so a little bit maybe too confident, maybe a little bit outbraked himself going through on the exit of Casio.
Yeah, mate, it's one of those things, you're not really sure. You gain a lot of ground one corner, but then you also compromise yourself because you come way too fast into the next. So I think that's what's just happened to Ando there. He's gained a lot of ground on the back of Lewis, just unfortunately coming a little bit too quick into a corner and to aggressively brake. But it won't be long. I don't think it'll be long before he's right past him and starting to challenge Niff here.
Yeah, absolutely, and also as well, you got to keep in mind with that extra pace that he's got on those tyres and the raw pace that the BMW M6 has. He's actually got a tailwind helping him on the exit of Spoon through to 130R, so that's why he's been able to get so much speed out of that BMW M6. Really struggled to pull the car up through Casio, and there he just lost a bit of time there, but he's gained it all up here through the S curves and through the deck, the corners, coming through to the hairpin on lap 14 of this enduro race, this 1 hour enduro race. We're about almost 32 minutes to go, and it's still the top three leading the way. Scott Barlow in fourth place, doing a really nice job there, first in class, well ahead of Peter McKenzie. He's actually not too far behind. He's just lost a position to Morgan Davey, as Morgan Davey just has come into the pit lane. He has transited the pit lane. 22.6 behind Hutton. Very interested to see how that plays out in the long game, but McKenzie doing a fantastic job in car 221 behind Scott Barlow. He's only about 1.5 behind him, and he's doing a fantastic job on his debut in the GT3 Championship.
No, we haven't really seen him here. I'm not sure if he was here last week or not. Of course, I wasn't there, but he seems to be doing absolutely fantastic. Up in 6th place. Well done. Hats off to him. For a pro driver, yeah, he's right up the field.
He's been doing a really good job in the track race at TCR Cup, running that Audi TT Group 4 with the big names, with the big hitters up towards the pointy end in that first division lobby. And yeah, he's done a good job, and I've raced against PJ as well plenty of times on the weeknights, and he's a very, very strong driver. He's in capable hands in any car, in a strong car like the Porsche 911. He's really able to hone his craft here, and he's actually gained a lot of time here. So it looks like Barlow made a mistake on the exit of Casio. I think he spun the wheels there on the exit going onto the pit straight, and he's lost so much time to McKenzie, and he's actually losing time on the into turn 1 and into turn 2. So
as we see the Mercedes there turn a little bit too sharply, lose a lot of time coming on the in, a lot of time going on the out, not just getting the flow of the line through. and that Porsche absolutely smashing it. So, oh, well, we can see we've got the Black Rose Racing Scott Pro, then we got PJ Mack for Scarborough Motorsport Pro, and then of course we have Black Rose Racing's elite driver falling right behind, staying right on the back end of PJ, doing the best he can to hang tight. I think as soon as PJ makes a move, we'll see James Lee do everything he can to make a offensive block, I believe. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens here as a 2-2-1 starts to make some ground on Scott.
So Barlow just keeping ahead of Mackenzie. Mackenzie now he's looking a little bit in the rear view mirrors at James Lee right behind, with, as we saw, James Lee really struggling with his Black Rose Racing Mercedes. Had a very strong performance in qualifying, but unfortunately the race pace hasn't really worked out for him. But we are half race distance now, lap 15, about to start lap 16 of this 1 hour endurance race. We're going to be seeing the first pit stop drivers in right now, and they've both made it to that halfway mark here, Joel. So a few drivers will be looking to come in, maybe put on a splash of fuel and just maybe run a long stint on the soft tyres, or would you think of maybe a double stint on the soft tyres?
I think a long stint on the softs, or maybe a double stint. It's really hard to tell. It's up to each team. I am expecting to see close to Black Rose Racing in the pits, but they've both stayed out, which is really stressful. Looking at their fuel, right in the red already for both drivers. That is... wow, they're going to be pushing their cars to even make this lap. And James Lee forcing the move up the inside of the Porsche, which allows the door open there for DP Mario. Unfortunately not able to get it done. Some fantastic driving there from Black Rose Racing, really pushing that Porsche out of the way. They're low on fuel, they're light, they're fast, but will they make this lap?
It's not just about making the lap, it's just trying to hold on to those tyres, because you can see both Black Rose Racing boys holding each other up through the S-curves, and that's brought in DP Murray, who has come into the pit lane and put on a fresh set of boots, and he's come through on his racing soft tyres. So he's actually ahead of Hutton and Andrew Scott there, but that's of course the advantage of the soft tyres, playing that undercut strategy well. But he's really getting hampered by these Black Rose Racing boys. He needs to try and make moves. He's going to stick a nose in on the inside of James Lee. A little bit of contact there on the exit of the hairpin. A little bit of a nudge to push the pass, but we'll wait and see what happens there. But that's a move made for DP Mario ahead of James Lee. I don't think James Lee could have done anything better than that, because on those really worn tyres, you are really struggling to get yourself around the corner. There's you see a replay there. A bit of a nudge there from the Diffusion race engineering, but I guess in a way that's a little bit of impatience for DP Mario's side there, because compared to, with his fresh tyres, compared to those really worn racing medium tyres.
Yeah, it was one of those moves, you're not sure if whether it was on or whether it wasn't. You're not sure if the outside driver turned in or not. You need to look at it in a little bit more detail to figure it out, but there was contact made, and it's going to be one of those things I guarantee you will be looked at. This late in the series, there's no way it's going to be let go.
And we have come to the crucial stage of this championship where everything's going to be looked at. It's all about the points. It's all about trying to get yourself those extra bit of points.
As we see Scott come into the pits with absolutely no fuel, running on rags, getting in there.
Wow, interesting, very interesting there. We have Mackenzie on 7%, so he was right up there with Scott Barlow. So this will be a very close pit stop call between Scarborough Motorsport and Black Rose Racing. See what they do at the end of this. But one driver that's really surprising me so far, Hugo, with only 26 minutes, with just under 27 minutes to go, Lewis Atkinson in first place hasn't made a pit stop yet. And look at those front tyres, they are running out of grip whatsoever. He's in the 2-minute twos on those laps there, so he's losing lap time to both Davey and Mario, but it's all depending about where he's going to come out. He's on the ragged edge on the fuel and tyres. He's definitely coming in at the end of this lap here, but what a mega stint on this medium set. 34 minutes on medium tyres and a full tank of fuel. That brings me back to what his teammate Drew Ison did at Laguna Seca in the pro class, and that got him his first pro class victory in the Gold Championship. So could a similar tactic happen for Lewis Atkinson in car 151. We'll find out in due time. But he's looking to
Absolutely.
come into
It's
pit
one of
lane
those
at the end
things
of this
we
lap.
really did look at in practice. The Aston Martin was an absolute beast. As we see, he's completely missed pit lane. No, what? I'm not sure if that was a glitch there or not, but it looked like he completely drove past pit lane. Anyway, it was one of those things we looked at in practice. You could get 17 laps quite easily on the Aston Martin fuel and tyres, and by doing that and swapping tyres only once, it was a really good strategy. But of course, the car does have its limits, so we'll have to wait and see where he pops out. Where he pops out is probably going to be close, maybe to where he will finish. We'll see a couple of drivers ahead of him pit one more time, but he won't. So I'm thinking he's going to finish probably third or fourth. I don't think he'll be right up the front with Morgan Davey or DP Mario. These guys have been absolutely flying, smashing it, lap after lap, going fast as can be. As we see there on the lap counter, we've got 2 minutes, 2:03s, 1:59s. So these guys are absolutely unstoppable, flying as much as their teams will allow them to push that car without breaking things.
Yeah,
This is going to be a really interesting race to see if Davey can hold off the amazing substitute of DP Mario racing there for Diffusion Race Engineering and NIF for Scarborough Motorsport, and of course our regular fast man Ando there for Gridline Racing.
Actually, what I've noticed there is Hudson's actually put on the medium tyres and Ando's actually put on the softs. So different strategies between the Scarborough and Gridline Racing teams. That one's running mediums, the other one's running softs. So he thinks maybe Andrew can't actually get to the end of this stint, and we're seeing NIF run a double stint on those medium tyres there. I wouldn't go past it as being, that's obviously the slower tyre compared to the softs. But I guess in a way, in the hands of Ando, you can really look after those tyres. No matter what compound he runs, he can definitely look after tyres no matter what.
I'd say the comparison from the MR and the FR might be the difference there. The Porsche might really struggle trying to do a medium soft run, just based on it. So by doing a double medium stint, he might be able to guarantee he can get to the end with a bit of comfortable grip, rather than really struggling towards the end. As we've seen those Porsches struggle on the soft tyres previously, spin out and lose 3 or 4 positions right on the last lap. So maybe these guys are heeding their warning of previous race results to try and make sure they maximise their points, while Ando is continuing to absolutely barrage the back end of the Scarborough Motorsport Porsche 911. That BMW is not going away at all as we go on board now with Ando Scott in the BMW M6, really pressuring the back of that 911 from Scarborough Motorsport.
round 8 of the MotorMotion Player1 GT3 Championship. We're about just over 20 minutes to go. We have Morgan Davey leading the way as a privateer championship leader and running currently in first place in this race here at Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. He'll be looking to make a pit stop for one more time. He's going to be throwing on those soft tyres and a splash of fuel. He's going to go for a hard finish towards the end of this stint. He's got 16 seconds, almost 17, over Nathan Hudson in second place, who's gone the alternate strategy on the mediums compared to Andrew Scott's soft tyres on that BMW M6. So watch out for those guys in second and third place. But the man I want to be keeping my eyes on is Lewis Atkinson in fourth place. There he is in the background there, lurking in the background. He's got a tank of fuel and soft tyres to run to the end of this stint here. So he's definitely going for a one stop, and he's going to be hoping for the boys ahead of him to make a mistake, as he's gone purple in sector 2 there. And then we have DP Murray, who's just come out of the pit lane, who's actually made another stop, sitting in position 5 and that is your top 5 in the elite class. As we go down to 6th place, we see Scott Barlow for Black Rose Racing in car 36, leading the gold class in that pro division in 6th place. And just ahead of him is James Lee. He's actually given up that position to James Lee, swapping the team order between James Lee and Scott Barlow. Von Duvey for WTC Racing, another elite driver just behind Scott Barlow. And then Peter McKenzie, the substitute driver for Kane Patton, in 9th place, second in class. And then Nick Pearce rounding himself up inside the top 8. And then third in class will be GLR Scotty in Scott Taylor in 11th place overall. Tony Griffin, the substitute driver for Drew Ison in car 62, 4th in class, 12th overall. Aussie Hypnotic 5th and 13th. And we have Dids and Brucey. And actually we haven't seen much of Bruce there. So he had a little bit of an incident there. And you can see there, he's really struggling here, Joel. He's only completed 7 laps here when the other boys have completed, what, 20 laps, I believe?
Yeah, that's it, my friend. He's had a bit of an issue. I'm not sure whether it's with his own personal wheel or the car itself. Unfortunately, I was on mute while I was trying to talk through some things, but it looks like he's got some serious issues as he's off the track once again. So as we move back up to our race leader, of course, Davey absolutely flying around the track right now in that Mercedes, having a fantastic run. Well ahead of the competition, 17 seconds ahead of Scarborough Motorsport's entry of the 911 NEF. But Ando right on the tail of that Porsche. He's not letting it go. Although, as we can see, the fuel and tyres are slowly starting to wear. He might have enough to get to the end. We're not sure. He is on the softs, so we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next couple of laps. HC Lewis, humongous contender there in the old girl. Really pushing the car to its limits. Unfortunately, not in the slipstream and not able to keep up with the pace of the 2 cars ahead.
Oh, actually, quite the opposite. He was actually 4.1 down on Andrew Scott last lap, and he's only dropped that down to 2 seconds on this lap. So he's really honing in the gap on Niff and Andrew Scott in second and third place, as we see Morgan Davey come into the pit lane for what is going to be his last stop. So it's the only 2-stopper and amongst the front 3, besides DP Mario. So he's going to be jumping on softs and a low tank of fuel. We'll wait and see when he comes through, as we see Hudson about to cross the start-finish line as a brand new race leader of this Round 8 Player1 GT3 Championship here at Suzuka Circuit. Hudson, Ando, and Atkinson, your top 3. Let's see where Morgan Davey comes out on the exit of this pit lane. Will he be ahead of DP Murray? He is. So he'll be in 4th place on a set of fresh softs, the freshest of soft tyres. He's gone to an Italian restaurant and say, make me the freshest pizza you can. Start everything from scratch. Give me the fresh things that you have on your menu. And what the boys have delivered here in Japan as a fresh set of boots for that car 33 for Deeds Brewery. And he's going to be on the charge. He's got 10 seconds to catch up to Nathan Hudson in first place.
If anyone can do it, it will be our privateer. Morgan Davies had a fantastic run through the series. We've seen the first 7 rounds so far where he has absolutely smashed the competition. without a team, doing it all on his own. Fantastic drive. He will be a driver these guys will be looking out for in the future.
Absolutely, and Davey's just a class above. He's a very smart racer, he's a hard racer. Always goes for the aggressive strategy. Never really won for the long game. He always wants to drive smooth, and he wants to drive fast, and he wants to get himself ahead of the pack. And that's what he's doing tonight. He's only got about 15.5 minutes to go to catch up to Lewis, Scott, and Hutton. As we look down to the leader of gold class, it is Scott Barlow, 2.2 ahead of Mackenzie in that Porsche. So he's doing a fantastic job on debut here in the GT3 Championship, just like we've seen his progression throughout the track racing TCR Cup. Mackenzie just right behind him is less than 2 seconds now, but then as well we have got Taylor in 10th place overall, 3rd in class there. So looks to be more, I don't know, like it's very hard to say that everything's all settled down into a rhythm here, but I've just seen as the timing split has gone up, Andrew Scott's actually now finally taken the lead. He's actually made a move through Casio and he's actually ahead and he's leading the race here, but he's got himself a big battle pack here. He's got Nith right back underneath his rear wing. He's saying, you took that position, I want it back please. Car 47 is looking to get that position back, but look who's come to play here, Joel. It is Lewis Atkinson on the freshest set of soft tyres. He wants to make the moves. It's only about 5/10 covering the top 3. It is close. You can throw a blanket over these 3s and they'll still be together. Lewis Atkinson is going to try and find a move around the outside of Dunlop Curve. Not possible there, son. Unfortunately, he's just sick behind Hutton and through the deck to curves, and just bide your time because the move will come to you very shortly, but it's very important for him to not lose ground to Andrew Scott in that BMW N6. So we've got the Beamer, we've got the Porsche and the Aston Martin. Lewis going for an inside move through the hairpin. He's done that very cleanly, so well done. A great classic clutch move there by Lewis Atkinson. So very awesome move there by the Aston Martin driver. And now he's on the hunt for Andrew Scott to take that P1 away with only 13 3/4 to go. It's going to be a very close battle here, but I also don't want to be taking my eyes off Morgan Davey, who is in 4th place. As we can see there, he's there in the background there, coming through a spoon curve. He's dropped that gap down massively. He's taken at least 2.5 seconds on that previous lap. He's coming, Joel.
Mate, he's one guy you do not want to forget about. He might be a mile away, but I tell you what, in the last couple of laps, he's going to be right there. I guarantee it. I don't know how he does it. And I don't know how he's just run purple, but I'll tell you one thing, he's one bloke you do not want to be on the bad side of, because he will always be on the quicker side of you.
Absolutely, and we can see the front 3 on that pit straight right now, so we can see Davey now coming onto that pit straight, so he's about to cross the line for a fastest lap of 1 minute 58.9. The first of the drives there, Lewis has made a mistake through turn 1. Oh, that's going to hurt his confidence on the exit of going into turn 2 through the S-curves. He's going to have a lot of garbage on those tyres. He needs to shake that off. And the famous words of Taylor Swift, he needs to shake those tyres off and start again, because all that hard work he's done, he needs to try and get back into the rhythm and get himself back into the club, into the rear wing of that Gridline Racing BMW.
That's right, mate. Shake it off. Shake it off. Come on, keep going. We're on lap 24 of this amazing race here at Suzuka, round 8 of the MotorMotion GT3 Championship, sponsored by Player1. Player1 Sim Gear was created by sim enthusiasts for sim enthusiasts. They're a Melbourne-based and 100% Australian-owned and operated company. When they launched Player1, they set out to create an online destination for race simmers, flight simmers, not to mention sim farmers, sim space pilots, sim truckers, and all other kinds of sim fans. To shop for all the best hardware at the best prices, make sure you visit www.p1simgear.com.au. They really hope you like the site, so please provide any feedback and let them know if there's any gear that you want that they don't currently stock. They're that awesome that they'll go out and do their best to find it for you. So make sure you get in contact with them at www.p1simgear.com.au, the proud and official sponsors of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship.
Yeah, Lewis has closed up that gap 6/10 on the exit of turn 1 where he made that mistake. Coming about to this corner right here as he's about to start the start-finish straight to start.
As they lunge into turn 1, we've got Lewis really doing his best to close the gap to Ando. We know that Aston Martin's got a lot more handling.
Yeah,
unfortunately, it doesn't have the speed.
He just gained 3/10 in the braking zone there, or 2.5 through the braking zone. That's incredible braking performance there the Aston Martin's got. The old girl still got it, and is right back into contention of getting P1 away. The last lap, he really struggled to pull it up in turn 1, but this time round, he got it in the perfect position, and he's just over 7/10 behind Andrew Scott with only 10.25 minutes to go.
As we see that part of the lap starting to straighten out, we do see the time drop away. The BMW really pulls away on the straights. So when we get to the corners, we see the Aston Martin making the moves. How much time do you think Lewis can make up in the lap? Is Ando faster overall, or do you think it's quite even from the turns and straights?
I think it's even between these two boys. These two boys are probably considered like one of the top drivers in the Australian Sim League racing here in Australia and New Zealand. Obviously, it's Australian versus New Zealand. It's a battle of the Aussie and the Kiwi for the victory here tonight. And Andrew Scott, yeah, they're both class acting drivers, but you can see there he's tucked underneath that rear wing. He's getting the slip trim, he's getting the toe. He's going to come through to 130R. Who's going to get the advantage here? The dirty is going to play an effect. Andrew flicks the grass there, but still stays ahead of Lewis in second place there, coming through to Casio Triangle for the 25th time, about to start lap 26. Oh, it's going to be very close. A little bit of dirt kicked up there, a little bit of smoke on the back end of Lewis's Aston Martin to go on board of what is going to be lap 26 of this round 8 at Suzuka circuit. Not long to go here, just less than 9 minutes to go, and it's all to play for here. Unfortunately, Nick is too far back in third place, 3.2 seconds, going the wrong strategy. Unfortunately, it almost made it work there on those medium tyres, but unfortunately, it just hasn't worked now in this second stage of the stint. And I think he's going to be coming under all sorts of pressure from Morgan Davey in fourth place. I can see those two battling it out there on the map. But this is the battle pack we want to keep our eyes on. Andrew Scott and Lewis Atkinson, the veteran versus the young gun. Oh, he's right up there in Deckner 1. Just needs to get a good exit out of Deckner 2. He's right there. Is he going to send a move going through to the hairpin? Will Ando go defensive? Lewis is going to go around the outside. Andrew goes defensive into the inside line here. He holds the inside and it takes a fantastic defensive move there. Well done by Andrew.
As we see the V12 really kick in under the back wing. He's going to take the inside round. It's going to put him on the outside for the corner, but it might set him up for the straight.
Going to go around the outside, a little bit of door banging, don't run too wide there, they're still going side by side. Lewis just looks the rear end. Oh, how has he held on to that? I will never know. And he's got his composure here, and he's dropped the gap down right underneath that rear wing of Gridline Racer, Andrew Scott, Lewis Atkinson. Andrew's going defensive, Lewis is going to stay behind, don't make a move through 130R. It is too risky in that Aston Martin, those big heavy cars. In the BMW and Aston Martin, he's going to do another lap to try and find a way past that 787. But man, this is some fantastic racing here.
Absolutely, it's making my blood tingle, mate. As we go down through the field, of course we got Ando and HG Lewis battling out for 1 and 2. We've got Niff. Not far behind him is Davey. So these guys are going to start putting on their own battle just behind. We've got James Lee, team boss of Black Rose Racing. Looks like he's really starting to force some cars off the road there behind him. We've got the Diffusion race entry of DP Mario and Vondu for WTC. WTC Racing entry, Vondu has just copped the worst of it. He's been pushed off to the side of the track, and one car's managed to get past him because of it. It's very unfortunate. We'll have a look back at that a little bit later. Scott there for Black Rose Racing in 8th place. PJ Max 75, Scarborough Motorsport's replacement driver for Peyton, tonight in 9th place, doing a fantastic job, well up the field for his position. And GLR Scotty there in 10th, doing a great job for GLR Racing. And Piersy, there is the 1111, the 111 I should say, for for Strike Racing.
That's
1111, that's a lot of ones. Yeah, triple one there for Strike Racing. Well done, mate. You're there in 11th place. Tony Griffin, the super sub, pulling in for NED Racing. Last minute there for Drew Ison in 12th. And we've got Aussie there, the 420 in the Jaguar. Doing a great job there in 13th place. Followed very closely by Sir Diz for Strike Race Tech. And of course, in last place, and I believe retired, will be Brucey, Big Bruce the Shark. Of course, our race host for tonight. Moving back up into the lead, Ando is out in front. HC Lewis not far behind. My friend Nick.
They're still nip and tuck amongst each other here. They're really just trading in those lap times and just trying to find every microsector to their advantage here. I think Andrew has definitely decided to go, you know what, just ditch the tyre whispering. I'm going full send for these next 5 minutes here. So you're roughly looking at about 3 more laps here for these boys in the Platinum Championship, the BMW, and piloted by the Gridline racer Andrew Scott, ahead of the Aston Martin driver and Lewis Atkinson from NED Racing. Morgan Davies gone past Nathan Hudson into 3rd place. He's 3.5 behind Andrew Scott, so he's got 3 more laps to go on those really fresh set of soft tyres, on those fresh good new tyres for the Deeds Brewing privateer entry. In 3rd place, he's going to be finding some gaps and he's going to try and find some pace to catch up. Unfortunately for Nith on those medium tyres, didn't work out, and Davies off. He's gone off at Deckner 1. Has he kept it on the track? He has. He's just kept it there. I just saw a bit of gravel kick up in the foreground as we're on board with Nith 47. He's just held on to it. He's lost time to Lewis and Ando. But yeah, very close between those 4 drivers, and unfortunately for Nith, I don't think the mediums tyres were the best strategy for him to run a medium, but you can definitely see on that tyre graphic, you can see why they needed the medium tyres for that second stint, because they are absolutely chewing through their tyres, Scarborough Motorsport.
Yeah, we did see it in the last 2 rounds. Those Porsches were really chewing through the tyres towards the end of the series here. Last couple of series races, we've seen a lot more turns than we saw in the first half. The Porsche really took advantage of the straights at the start of the series, really just flying above the rest of the competition with their top speed. But unfortunately, with all these turns, we've seen the tyre wear really decimate their cars. Seen a few of them sideways off into the wall. They are still out ahead in front in the Teams Championship, but they need to be very careful as there are quite a few rounds remaining and a very couple of competitive teams biting at their heels.
Absolutely, and we've only got 2 laps to go now. It's going to be the battle for Andrew Scott and HC Lewis. I believe Scott Barlow's got his position sealed, signed and delivered for P1 in that Gold Championship. But Von Duvy's going to try an outside move through 130. Oh, James Lee takes a bit too much grass in the inside line. DP Murray is going to look for a sniff. Coming into Casio, he doesn't find any space there. The boys keeping it very tidy, very clean here. The battle for 5th place still rages on. There's a lot of battle packs going up left, right, front and centre. We just don't know where to look. But I have a feeling that the battle pack for 1st place is brewing between Ando and Lewis. I can see it on the mini map there. They are so close to each other. Right there. Ando's really gone through those soft tyres at the front. He's really running out of grip here. Lewis as well running out of more grip at the front tyres. They're both playing for sheep stations here, Joel. I don't know who's going to come out on top on those really worn soft tyres, because Morgan Davies not too far behind as well.
See, that's one of the things, mate. We've seen that the BMW, once the tyres are starting to wear, it gets very sideways. But we've only seen that as people in the Diffusion Race Engineering in their BMW. We've seen Robert Foster really get the car sideways in that BMW. Ando seems to have a really firm control on this car. We haven't seen it go slightly sideways at all. HC Lewis, in the meantime, tucked right under that back wing. He doesn't want to lose him. because he knows the second that he does, that's the race over.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be the last lap of the Grand Prix. Lewis is right back underneath that rear wing from the Gridline racer. Andrew Scott's going defensive for the last lap here, lap 30. It's all do or die here for Lewis Atkinson, the young gun for NED Racing. Trying to go for an outside move into turn one. He's going to try and stick a nose around the outside. Going into turn one. Will he hold it around the outside for turn two? Oh, it's going to be close. Unfortunately, no. He stays right behind as we go on board with Lewis. What is going to be the last lap here? Lap 30 of this fantastic round 8. He's trying to stick a nose in through the S-curves. That's unheard of here. But those tyres are really dying out on him. So he needs to wait patiently. He needs to find the move. He needs to find the right time to make a move. Because once he makes that move, those tyres will be done. And it's all about defensive driving. I feel like he just lost out in turn 1 and turn 2. I have a feeling that might be his last chance, but with Lewis Atkinson behind the wheel of that Aston, he's saying no chance at all. Andrew's run wide. He's run wide on the exit of Degner 2. Lewis is going to go for the inside move. He's going to keep the car ahead. He's going to go defensive through the chicane. Bit of contact made between the Aston and the BMW, but look behind. Morgan Davies sniffing in the background. He's not out of it yet. Watch out for him on this last part of the track. But that mistake, costly mistake by Andrew Scott, has gifted Lewis the lead of this Grand Prix on the final lap of lap 30. He needs to keep the car straight because those tyres are absolutely shot. Morgan Davey is going to come and try and get a great run out of Spoon Curve and try and get onto the back end of Scott's 787. But I think Lewis has done enough to keep that car ahead. It just needs to negotiate 2 more tricky corners. 130 for car 151. Execute this. That's done. Oh, he's run a bit wide. Oh, that's so close there for Lewis there. And then through to Casio Triangle. Andrew Scott's going to try and move. He can't do it. And Lewis is going to exit out of Casio Triangle for the last time as your victor for round 8 of the Player1 GT3 Championship. Lewis Atkinson wins for NED Racing. Car 151 takes victory ahead of Andrew Scott in car 787. And Morgan Davey come to play in 3rd place for the privateer car 33. Wow, you can definitely see the top 3 you can definitely see these top 3 are well in their positions when it comes to the championship. They are sitting in the top 3 in that championship.
Absolutely, mate. The gloves were off. The fucking battle was on. That was amazing. Coming up to the final finishes, those cars were not far apart from each other. If you see James Lee in 5th place, very comfortably making his way across the line now. We've got Scott there in 6th. So Black Rose Racing story there very closely. Oh, as we see GLR Scotty jump in front. What a fantastic overtake at the end. I think someone was out of fuel. PJ Mack in 8th. GP Mario coming across in 9th. We've already seen
run out of fuel as well, so both Lee and Mario running out of fuel on that last lap. Von Duvey, I saw him drop down the order there, just being a little bit too aggressive on his end, a little bit too aggressive on his side, finishing in 10th place. Nick Pears in 11th, Tony Griffin in 12th, Ozzy Taylor, Sir Dids in Shane Addard, and unfortunately, Glenn Mead, who's coming to the rear of the field, only completed 8 laps of this Grand Prix, will be finishing in last place with our 15 competitors amongst the field here. But holy dooly, what an epic last lap that was for HC Lewis and Lewis Atkinson, the NED racer, taking victory after a critical mistake there by Andrew Scott on the exit of Degner 2, running a bit too wide there, gifted Lewis the lead there, and Lewis had to keep his eyes forward, and he takes the victory for NED Racing.
We both called it as the race was over, but he's managed to pull it out. He's managed to pull it out and do a fantastic job. So we'll very quickly go through and have a look at those standings once again. HC Lewis in 1st place for NED Racing. Ando there in the M6 2nd place. Morgan Davey in 3rd. That's our top 3. Of course, Morgan Davey with the fastest lap of the race, which was a 158.997. Well done to him. That's our top 3 finishes there in the race. Overall, we'll have to go back through it again. But we do have our elite 1, 2, 3. Fantastic drive for them. PJ Mack, No, sorry. I think it's Scott. Scott, the first of our pro drivers, ahead of his teammate James Lee, and 5th place overall, so 1st place in class. PJ Mack, no, sorry, GLR Scotty 2nd in the
in the Gold Championship. So
Gold
we have
Championship.
Scott.
That's right.
So Scott
And then
Barlow
PJ Mack.
Scott Barlow's has won the Pro Class Gold Championship race, finishing 5th overall. GLR Scotty and Scott Taylor 2nd in class, and then unfortunately PJ McKenzie in finishing in 8th place. I think he made a mistake on that last lap and gifted GLR Scotty that position too. So Scotty really trying to make a comeback in this championship. He's going to get ahead of Glenn Mead after Glenn Mead's DNF and retirement, and that only completing 8 laps there, so that'll catapult him up into 2nd place in the championship. But unfortunately, I have a feeling with only 2 rounds to go, it could be a few more fingers on that trophy for Scott Barlow in that Gold Championship. We'll be waiting to see how far he can progress in these next 2 rounds. And then we have DP Mario, the substitute driver for Robert Foster, finishing in 9th place, and then Wade Von Duvey in rounding up the top 10 in that elite class with Pearsy in Nick Pearce in 11th place, and that rounds up the last of the elite drivers. And then we have Tony Griffin, Ozzy Taylor, Shane Addard, and Glenn Mead 22 laps down with a power steering failure on that BMW Diffusion Race Engineering M6.
It's very interesting to hear from Pit Lane. It seems like one of the lines had a pinprick that just could not be detected. They brought the car in multiple times, which is why we saw it so far down the grid. Some sort of pinprick somewhere down the line. We just saw the fluid pissing out on track. So the car needs to be taken off to stop the car sliding. I think we did see a few consequent slides from a few cars there. A bit of pooling in the corner. So unfortunate there for Brucey, but we couldn't isolate where that issue was coming from within the main steering column. Some sort of power steering issue, a little bit of a pinprick in the line, and they will replace that entirely, I believe, is what they've said. Coming in now, they're replacing it entirely before the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see what car 999 does for round 9 for the next leg of this Japanese leg here in the Asia regions. We go to Japan for next time out in 2 weeks' time. I believe we are at Autopolis, I believe, for round 9 before we head back home to Mount Panorama. So it'll be a very interesting conclusion to this championship. But it's all about trying to see where these drivers end up on the end of this Japanese leg coming when we come back home for round 10. But it is time to give our Player 1 driver of the day here, Joel. And you know, usually, and in the famous words of George Cooke, he likes to throw it to me a lot to give driver of the day. So I'm going to throw it over to you, big man. Obviously, it is your return back to the commentary box after having your newborn. But who would you pick as your driver of the day here for round 8 of the MotorMotion Player 1 Sim Gear GT3 Championship?
Look, it might need to be validated. It really will need to be validated, but I really have to say, HC Lewis in that V12 Vantage getting the win is mind-blowing. I don't know how he's done it. The car's slow, we know that, in a straight line. It's got good handling, yes, but his win was completely off pit strategy and slipstream. Without that, he would not have been even in contention, let alone being able to make the move on Ando, our resident fast man, on the last lap. So I've got to give my hats off. Well done, HC Lewis, mate. Like, well done. That, for me, best drive you've done.
Absolutely, and that's definitely, yeah, that was definitely going to be my vote for HC Lewis there. What a fantastic drive. Waited patiently, played the long game as well, Joel, as we saw with one of his teammates. So he got inspiration from Drew Ison back at Laguna Seca, running that long strategy on the old girl for the V12 Vantage, running that long stint, and then coming back in the second phase of that stint on those soft tires. And my goodness, I don't know how he did it. That was absolutely incredible. I thought for sure it was going to be Andrew's victory, but yet that's another race where Andrew Scott has lost it on the last lap. He lost it on the last lap at Laguna Seca, and unfortunately he's lost it on the last lap here at Suzuka at Suzuka Circuit. So when is the guy going to be able to get his victory here in the Player 1 GT3 Championship? We'll have to find out soon. I believe he's got a victory or two, but I think they were in the sprint races. I don't think they were in the enduro races. We'll have to. I'll maybe have to look back through the results there on how if he's taken victory or not. But you know, to win it on track, Lewis, you thoroughly deserve it, big man. And you know, you've definitely got a young boy, a young man in the ranks there in Lewis. And yeah, keep training him up, Joel.
Mate, we'll do our best. These young guns, they're keen as a bean and they're ready to fly. Lewis has been one of those guys that, you know, really hard to train because he doesn't do anything wrong. Um, not in a bad way. It's just one of those things. He's really good, and I can't teach him more than I know. Besides patience and strategy. So I think we've seen a little bit of that play out tonight. And you know, not only did he gun it as fast as he could the whole race around, but he did show a bit of patience and a bit of strategy, and it's really worked out well for him, especially in those last 3 laps where he managed to get past Ando. I didn't see that coming myself, and I'm really proud of him. I honestly, hats off. Well done, Lewis. Great race. Honestly, great race to both Ando and Davey as well. That was fantastic. Couldn't have called a better race. This is one of those times where I've come back for a race, and I don't want to miss another one, but unfortunately I will be away for a little bit longer. I'll come back, don't worry about that. But I need to spend a little bit of time with family for a while, so a little bit of a one-off. I'm back for as a special, and it's been fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. Nick, mate, you are always doing a fantastic job. Love hearing your sexy voice. So I'm looking forward to the very next round with, of course, yourself and Ryan. Ryan doing an amazing job last round. Unfortunately, wasn't able to be here with us tonight, so it's going to be absolutely great to sit back, relax. Yeah, this is all theoretical because I will be holding a crying baby. Sit back, relax, and listen to you guys absolutely smash round 9. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. You guys do a great job together, as we've seen in other leagues as well. So fantastic. Well done, and I'm looking forward to it next time. You guys have been a fantastic audience. I'm Joel Austin. Thank you for being here. And of course, we do have Nick Pautasso here with us tonight. Make sure you drop your pants and tell your grandma that you are fantastic.